Thank you for joining us, everyone, for another episode of Live by Heart
Today
with your hosts, Dawn Spiegelberg and Wendy R. Wolf.
Hello, and welcome to the Live by Heart Today show number 20. This is a show designed to help you navigate change, uncertainty, and the new world we found ourselves living in. We'll talk a little bit about science, a little bit about how our body works, a little bit about intuition, and we'll talk a lot about transformation. Continuing our relationship focus, today's theme is rewriting your story. And with me for our heart to heart is my co-host, Wendy R. Wolf, Professional Transformation Facilitator. Hi, Wendy.
Hey, Dawn. So last time we were talking, we had a great conversation about owning your story. And there's so many things we wanted to go more into. So this is a great opportunity. And one thing I wanted to say is I said, I believe last time, that like my story changes as I heal and grow and change. My story changes about my past. And I help myself and others like put the puzzle pieces together and understand it and heal and change. But what I didn't put together is that this overarching conversation we're having is about relationships. So, like I'll just use my dad for an example. It's just, for me, it's a great example. He's passed on a long time ago now. But as I keep changing, my relationship with him continues to change.
Interesting.
Yes, it can, and I see it differently. Every few years, I'm like, oh, I see it differently. Oh, I remember different things about it. The flavor of my experience of my relationship with my dad continues to iterate. And it used to be pretty hard. And as a lot of that hard stuff falls away, I can remember not hard stuff better.
Oh.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to put that together, that it's not just that we change our story, which affects now and our future, but it also affects our experience of the past and how we relate to it and if it controls us or not, and the relationships that we have with people who are living and dead.
So the saying, all healing is self-healing, is actually all healing is healing for all.
It really is.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it from that perspective.
Yeah.
So we should talk a little bit more about how your healing allows you to change the perspective. What do you think like the mechanism is? What do you think the lever is that allows you to do that?
Well, I literally have inner levers that help me.
I know you do that all the time, lever.
Nice setup. But like, unlike, I don't believe that my identity is not fixed, and my identity has been continuing to shift from my emotions, my thoughts, my beliefs, what happened, what I felt like happened to me. My identity continues to shift, and my the energy and the pain and the fear and the shame around all these things continues to fall out. And all of my experience in here, and therefore the past and what's possible for the future, continues to raise vibration. So how does that happen? It happens because I have tools, I have levers that, and ways of seeing below the conscious to both perceive and shift and choose in ways that aren't commonly known or seen in the world. That's my perception.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because we did a show about choice, right? We talked about chocolate, vanilla, choose. And when you think about the choice, if somebody says to you, vanilla, choose, that for some people, that's like saying, think, choose, right? Like they don't realize that they have the choice to not think the thoughts that they're thinking.
Yes. Really don't understand that. Yes.
and and I believe people begin to understand that concept when you ask them, would you say you are your thoughts? And they immediately say, no, I'm not my thoughts. Oh, would you say you are your feelings? No, I don't think I'm my feelings, right? Would you say you are your body? Well, then they begin to say, well, they replaced my knee, so no, I'm not really my body. But right then it becomes a little more difficult to say, am I my body or am I not?
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to touch or maybe identify what it means when you say raise your vibration. So we just realized, oh, we are not the thoughts that we think, and we are not the feelings that we feel, right? We are not just our body. Our body houses us. But when you talk about raising your vibration and in the perspective that as you release the hurt from your past, as your
Yeah.
identity is shifting, you're raising your vibration. And what does that what does that mean for you, and what can it mean for someone else?
I know it's such a woo-woo term. I know I said it. I didn't know what else to say. What I want to say is just what you did, like, is when I put things in their proper perspective. So I'm sure I've talked in this series about I'm the driver of the car, and that's like the essence of this whole self-mastery thing. I'm the driver of my car. My my thoughts are over here in the passenger seat where they get to figure out pattern matching and spreadsheets and maps and all this stuff. But I continue to disambiguate it, and the same thing. Feelings go in the back seat, sexual impulses, etc. Back seat. They don't get to drive. Thank you very much. They do get a say, but they don't get to drive. And so it's really important to disambiguate that, I feel like, as part of this answer. And so there's all these parts of myself, many, many parts, but my witness, or me as consciousness, or however you want to say it, does get to drive. And I get to choose, all right, I might have this feeling, I might be grieving horrible loss. I'm grieving, but I can still allow it could be called a blessing or a song in my heart of peace. But I'm grieving. And my mind saying, this sucks and I don't like it.
Right?
I don't like it. But I can still allow peace. I can still allow joy. I can still allow love. So that's when I'm talking about the vibration. So I'm letting in. So I'm constantly, the part of my practice is I'm constantly dropping what's not me and not now and isn't working and isn't serving me or anyone else. All that shit. I'm constantly dropping it and letting in light and love and truth and peace and glory. That's the practice. And it gets easier and lighter and more playful. And last time I was talking about actively inviting amusement. And we've talked a lot about actively inviting neutrality. And sadly, I don't know that most people know what we're talking about. When we say neutrality, I mean a more neutral perspective, a more spiritual perspective, a more, not the emotions, not the thoughts, but a clean slate perspective. So does that, I know I'm translating a practice that's below consciousness, that has to be practiced, not talked about. I'm translating that to words, and I don't know, is that landing at all?
Yes. Well, what you're saying is the Tao that you are talking about is not the real Tao.
Not.
We can talk all about around it. And I asked this question of someone recently over dinner, and wow, I was out. Can you believe it? And restaurant. It doesn't happen very often, of course. But I was saying, well, what animates you? Are you your thoughts? Are you your feelings? Are you your body? Right? When you decide to get up and go for a walk, what part of you is deciding to go for a walk, because you don't leave your liver behind, right? Your liver goes with your body, and maybe your brain decided, I'll get up and go for a walk. And you can say, well, the message to my muscles came from my brain. But your heart also said, oh, I'd like to take a big breath of fresh air and be in nature, right? So what animates you? And that's what you're describing. When you talk about raising your vibration, we're talking about the thing that animates you, that life force, the energy that is within you, that when you don't have that energy, everybody knows it, because you're right. You're gone. You're dead. So it's that which animates you, which we know is not your thoughts, because plenty of people lose function in the brain and they're still animated, right?
Yeah.
Plenty of people are disconnected and don't understand their feelings or emotions, and they're still animated, right? So there's something else that animates us. It's that life force.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're talking about, raising the vibration. So when we live by heart, there are certain qualities of the heart, and they've studied these, right? And the qualities of the heart change the heart rate variability. That's the quality of the heartbeats, not the speed, but the quality of them. And those types of feelings include kindness, caring, appreciation. Those are considered heart qualities. And that raises your vibration. That improves the quality of your life. That is a different perspective than the perspective that came to mind, which was grumpy old man, right? There's some people who are considered that grumpy old person. And that's a perspective that they have that imposes itself on absolutely everything.
Yes.
You give them some nice birthday gift or a card and they say, wow, thanks. But because their life was so full of complaining, they say, why didn't I get a second piece of cake?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like there's this,
Yeah.
wait, you were just happy a second ago, but it only happened for a second, because their perspective is constantly more cynical or more negative, certainly not of a higher vibrational calling, which includes love, right? Would you include that in there? I mean, love is multiple levels, but sort of the global love that includes peace and compassion.
Yeah. Michael and I, because we joke about this, and like the way we kind of came up with talking about it is that we become more so. The more older we get, we become more so. So what are we practicing? What's the momentum we're in? Because some older people are so full of light and joy and beauty, and some older people are not. That's not my experience of them. And so it's hard not to get rigid, and it's hard not to get hurt. And some people manage to just get more and more beautiful.
They're choosing their story.
They're choosing their story, and they're practicing toward that. And I feel like we get the fruit of all our choices the more we go on.
You're right. Jeff Olson wrote a book called The Slight Edge. Are you familiar with that?
Mm-mm.
He has this diagram. There's a line, and the line is time. And let's just use the example of brushing and flossing your teeth every day, right? So every time you brush and floss your teeth, right, you're above the line, because that's maintenance and health for your teeth.
Right.
And over time, there's a moment where brushing and flossing your teeth, right, it spikes up. Like all these good things that you do, suddenly there's a huge benefit to them. I shouldn't say suddenly, but there's a sharp incline because of all that time of good upkeep has a huge benefit. But the opposite is true, right? If you're not brushing and flossing your teeth every day and time passes, then there's a point in time where it's a sharp spike downward. And so more teeth are breaking and more teeth need to be replaced or drilled or whatever. And it seems like so many. So the slight edge is he defines them as the habits that are easy to do and also easy not to do.
And he has a whole book of them?
He has a whole book about this concept.
Interesting.
Called
Oh,
The
so not
Slight Edge.
like, here's the 20 best things to do to get that good,
No, it's about the things that you decide to do. Right? So if you're deciding to eat that piece of cake every day,
yeah.
what is that going to do for you in 3 months?
Yeah.
Now, it might do nothing if you're prepping for a marathon.
Right.
But if you're not prepping for a marathon, right, it might be a part of your marathon preparation that you need to eat a piece of cake because you need those extra calories and
Yeah.
cake tastes great.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, that would be a huge mistake.
You would need new clothes.
Yes. And I wouldn't buy them. So then I would, be just bursting out of the ones I have.
Yes.
Yeah. Eating a piece of cake every day would just not
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with one piece of cake for most of us.
Yeah, for most people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that
Interesting.
And he's also talking about the concept of everything in moderation. Even moderation in moderation.
Yes. I like that.
So that's a long way off of our history and rewriting our story, but not, right? Because I rewrite my story right now.
Yes.
I'm rewriting my story in this moment when I'm choosing, am I going to eat this piece of chocolate, which I've shared with everyone before, is the thing that will kick me out of heart coherence faster than anything else in the world. I eat chocolate and then boom, right? Everybody says, why are you so upset? And I don't think I'm upset, but I just come across as irritated because it inflames me. It causes my body.
And is that, it's sugar chocolate, right? Or cacao as well?
Well, I eat it's only cacao, the bitterest chocolate in the world, and my kids still know. Did you eat chocolate today?
Because I eat like actual just cacao, not processed. And I have a little, and I like it. So anyway,
yeah, it is good.
I don't do well with sugar at all. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
So so these habits, these things that we do, these things that we choose, these things, they affect us now, they affect our future, and amazingly, they affect our relationship with the past and the people that we care about. And so should I go on, or is there?
Yeah, go on. We'll take a break in 4 minutes.
Okay. So one of the things that I wanted to bring up was another landmark education distinction, which is already, what they call it is already always listening.
Always listening?
Yeah. It's basically like the glasses, like the colored glasses that I perceive through, but it's all the perceptions. So like if I had, dark brown glasses on, I'm seeing everything,
the color of
colored
dark
glasses.
Brown. Yeah. That's a perspective choice.
As opposed to, pink glasses full of like love and possibility or whatever.
Right.
So I'm not listening like a clean slate, like we talked about before. Everything I perceive is through all of my past experience. Everything that, all the habits of thought and perception that I have, and all those ruts that we talk about. Like, so the older man who wasn't appreciating his birthday or whatever, that's all those perceptions that are all piled up. And it's hard for me, I'll just bring it back to me. It's hard for me to listen from nothing, listen from neutral in the face of all this stuff that I've got.
I just have to jump in and say, this is what the Buddha meant when he said, don't have attachments.
Yeah. They're past and future related attachments.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that goes to Don Juan, who talks about, he had a spiritual practice that had him have, but he said, I have no history, which is absurd. by the way. Of course he has a history. But so I just want to say, that's absurd. But, and when I read him the first time, I'm just like, yeah, most of this is good, but this is crazy talk, right? That's what I thought at first. And now I understand what he's talking about. He's talking about taking off the layers so that he can perceive and he can be with and he can choose from nothing.
And from nothing, you mean neutrality?
Neutrality, from not all the stuff, and not all the stories, and not all the perceptions and the habits. It's extraordinary.
So that's what Christ said too, to leave your father and mother and follow me. And I didn't recall that one verse that says, if you don't hate your father and mother, then you can't follow me. That's really fascinating. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure I know what hate means in that context, because it's a Greek word. It was written in Greek, and the Greek word does mean hate. So I have to do a little more research on that. But of course, if you're still attached to your parents, you certainly wouldn't be able to leave home and preach the gospel like he was mentioning. And you've seen this in some people's lives. Children aren't leaving home. They aren't becoming independent. They don't know what to do without their parents' money or safety or their car. And that doesn't speak good of the parents. That's not good parenting.
Right, because good parenting, we're working ourselves out of a job.
Right.
And creating independent people to live their own lives. And that's the thing. It's like there's so many people, well, why are you a doctor? Oh, my mother wanted me to be a doctor.
Oh.
It's like, and that's, we have to let go of the apron strings, it's called.
And that's not choosing your own story.
Yeah. What's interesting is that if we don't let go of the apron strings, then we're, and this is an NVC, nonviolent communication, Marshall Rosenberg distinction. He says that we have to resist or comply. And I see it all the time, right? So it's not that so my mom, God bless her, my mom is all she was Miss Clean, was all straight and clean and looking good. And and then we have me, right? Clear, I become clear every now and then that if I completely stopped resisting all that, how good I have to look and how good everything has to look and how clean everything has to be and straight, that I might come to more moderation. But I think there's parts of me that are still I'm not playing that game. I notice when I clean the kitchen, I can't actually bring everything to perfection. I have to leave a little something. Try it. So anyway, yeah. So, but I can't be controlled by my mother, and controlled very often looks like resisting.
Right.
It's a riot.
With that control that looks like resisting, let's take a short break.
And thank you to our sponsor for making the show possible. Hooray!
Here we are back talking about resistance and complying. And we all know that saying, what you resist persists. So why are we resisting cleaning the kitchen again? Right? It's a good question, because when the kitchen is clean, it's so much easier to do what needs to be done. And there are times when I'll decide, I'm going to clean half of it while I begin cooking. Because of course, while this is on the stove, I can then do that.
Yeah.
But then I can't do that because there are too many things in the way. So I can't actually get the cooking started. And my husband is the complete opposite. Everything is clear, and then he begins cooking, and it's so efficient, and it's nice to be there.
Yeah.
So why do we resist cleaning the kitchen?
I think there's layers of reasons. But what I was bringing up is, don't tell me what to do. That's part of it for me. Don't tell me what to do. No.
So, that's a question. Do you still have that voice in your head? do you think?
I think it's there. I don't hear it.
Mm.
Every now and then I'll bring something up. Like, oh, my mother would hate this outfit. Like, or whatever. Oh, my grandmother would be shaking her head. She must be turning circles in the grave. She looked how wrinkly this dress is. Stuff like that. But it's like, I kind of laugh with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's changing the story, right? That's
Yeah.
changing that input and trying to raise the vibration of it. And so it's so funny you say that, oh, this dress is so wrinkly. I buy dresses that don't get wrinkled. Like if it's a dress that will wrinkle, I won't get it. Nope, not for me.
Yes. We don't own an iron. Like, we didn't use it for so many years in Seattle, and now we've been out of Seattle barking at 2 years. People are like, you want an iron? No.
No, right? Because then I'll have to use it, or then I'll just be storing something that I don't
Just
use. And
store
why
it.
would I do
Yeah.
that?
And Michael figured out a way, because we needed it. Like, he was doing patches, on his jeans. And he was doing somewhere, you iron them on, and also like sewing them as
Yeah.
well. And he did some great work. He got some hot pans and made, like, from the old days, they used to put the iron on the stove to heat it. He used pans. He's so clever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it worked perfectly, didn't it?
It worked perfectly.
Yep. And you don't need an iron.
Nope. So, yeah. Yeah. So coming to consciousness about all this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Becoming conscious and allowing, when I do healing work with people, I think in terms of archaeology, like we just keep digging down and finding very interesting things. And somebody gave me a different picture the other day about, like, if you drain a lake, like the water starts to come down. It's like, oh, look what's under there. Oh, look what's under there. And so that's some of what happens in the healing process. And that, as I said, that can change our whole story. And I also wanted to talk about how last time I was saying, oh, this related to the body and taking care of the body. And I wanted to say, being conscious in our relationship with our own body is so important, because it really does need our love and care. Really does.
Yeah.
Really does need our listening and our looking out for it. So, so the consciously taking care of the body communication, this is what's happening now. I was saying that last time. This is not real. This is a movie. This is not happening now. It's really important, because the body, I think they've done brain research, like it became famous with Greg Louganis. I think he was, like, in his head, he was doing his dive over and over and over and over and over, and how his body didn't know the difference between that and actually doing the dive.
Yes, because they put up electrodes on all his muscles. And as he was thinking about the dive, the nerve stimuli to the muscles that would perform the dive were still happening, even though the muscle wasn't actually performing the action. The stimulus that would cause it to perform were occurring.
Yes. And so it's really, that's just a whole show in itself about how, when we indulge in worry, when we indulge in negative creation, what horror that does to our bodies. But I'll just put that on the side. I mean, it's just really terrible for our bodies. So when we are bringing up stuff that is difficult, to, like, get a little space from it and maybe have some support, if you don't have inner tools, getting support is really helpful, because then I could be like, okay, body, everything's fine. Like, I'll say this with clients all the time: tell your body it's not happening now, and then we're going to be done in 10 minutes, and then you guys can go out and play. I mean, it's just really important. Yes. It's not happening now, body. It's not happening now, and it's not happening to us, or whatever. And boy, with the news too, this is a good thing to know. All the news, and I prefer to read it for decades now, because it's just too intense visually. I can't control it. But even reading the news, like, I think it's very important to be like, body, this isn't happening to us, and it's not happening now, because we get very engaged in whatever narrative.
That's true, because there are a lot of people afraid.
Yeah.
And that's because they're engaged in the narrative.
Yeah. And we don't have to, because we have enough. Speak of Jesus, he's like, this day has enough crap in it already. He said evil. This day has enough evil of its own. We don't need to borrow the evil of tomorrow. He used very strong language. But we don't need other people's troubles, and we don't need tomorrow's troubles. Today is more than enough.
That's true.
Handle
What's super important about this is that when our body is perceiving fear and worry and trepidation, all those things, it is decreasing our immune response. It is not allowing us to digest properly. It is narrowing our clarity. Our mental acuity is shifting.
Yes.
And it's perpetuating fear, because when we have the fear response, our physical body is primed, and it's the habit to discover what the threat is, so that we can deal with it, because we're not supposed to live under a threat all the time. And of course, the studies of chronic stress are showing how the body breaks down, and the chronic stress is us not identifying and eliminating the threat that we perceive to be a threat to our safety. So you're absolutely right. When our body can be assured that it's safe, when our body feels supported, when our feet are grounded, and we're here in present time, and we identify those things that benefit us, rather than allowing our mind to focus and dwell on the things that are fear inducing, we're actually lowering our vibration. And I want to mention this too. We're lowering our vibration because when we're under stress, our body uses all its energy reserves, because it believes it has to run or hide or fight. And so it's not going to just do that with 20% of its ability. It's going to do it with 100+%. So when you're constantly dumping all your energy reserves, you're going to be exhausted. You're not going to sleep well. Your immune system is tanked. And then you're more susceptible to more fear, more illness, and not staying connected with who you are and the relationships that are meaningful to you.
Yes, it's beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for putting that all together. And it's so, it's just, I can't say strongly enough how important it is to get in charge of that and not letting all this happen to us by our own patterns that aren't working, as well as things in the world that people take advantage. A lot of the selling takes advantage of this fear, or I'm not good enough, or whatever, we're being manipulated in some ways. And so that's something to take charge of, because otherwise we end up depleted and at the mercy of everything.
Yes. So rewriting our story, I just like to distinguish this, because I think it's important for everyone to understand. Rewriting our story is twofold. It's rewriting those things from our past so that they don't hold us, so that they don't cause us to relive them. But it's also creating a present moment so that our future is more clear and clean and beneficial to us. So it's both our internal environment and our external environment that we have to pay close attention to and ensure that it's providing us what will be for our highest good.
And it's all happening now. Here's the point of power: right now.
Oh, yes.
Right now are my choices and perceptions and experience right now. And so, right now I can have varying experience of the past and see varying possibilities for the future and make choices. And part of what this is about, the rewriting our story, can we take on that we are the narrator, we are the editor, we are the protagonist, We are there was something else. Oh, the author.
Author,
Like,
yeah.
how can we, and a friend of mine does this, like, this is his thing. And it's just really fascinating to take that on. It's a different way to talk about it. You know, we talk next time we're talking about, I have it playing our own game next time. We talked about maybe hopefully doing that, right? That's part of it. But it's like this whole being the author and the narrator and the person who takes action and what it all means. That's in our venue. It's in our venue, and it's in each person's venue. And yeah, it's important to see from their perspective, but it doesn't run me. It helps to see from their perspective, but it doesn't run me. And I can see from my own perspective and choose what that perspective is. It's wild.
Right. So I can listen to someone and hear what they have to say, but I don't have to be manipulated into thinking exactly the same way they do. I can make my own choice, and I can choose for myself. And when we all choose this way, then we're all self-validating. So I don't need someone else to tell me what to think and how to behave. I can choose for myself, and that's when I'm the narrator. That's when I'm the editor and the author and the captain of my own ship. And that is much better for our bodies living in that present moment, because then we're neutral, we can take charge. And in our last 3 minutes, let's take a moment and talk about what happens when I worry.
Yeah, you got any physiology for us?
Well, worry is a part of the fear. So I just mentioned a whole bunch of physiology about fear. And you've mentioned before the negative creation that worry presents for our minds and our bodies. So,
Yeah. I grew up under the, I grew up in the vibration of worry. And I was gestated in the vibration of worry. And so I'm really good at it.
can I point something out with regard to that before we move on about worry? So what you're saying is your mother, while you were in utero, was a worrier.
Yeah.
And worry is a polypeptide. It's a feeling. It's a feeling that creates a particle, and that particle crosses the barriers between a mother and an infant. So you were steeped in worry even before you were born.
Yes.
So it's important for people to understand that, because I don't know that they realize a pregnant mother and what she experiences in life during pregnancy is also what an unborn infant is experiencing about life.
Yeah. 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 It's very important. Not for guilt, and not, it's just a conscious, can we be conscious about what we're doing with ourselves and our, so there's some fascinating things about worry, but there's two main components from because I've had to master it. I had to master worry, and because it was dominating me. And one is there's an incredible amount of creativity that goes on. There's an incredible amount of like examining what's possible from here in a negative way, but like everything that can go wrong. And like I'll joke, like, not only because of spiritual stuff, but like I can't be a criminal, I can't be a cropper or a robber because I'm way too paranoid. I never say this is the worst day ever, because I can think of a million reasons how it could be worse, right? Like I'm like so like there's a wild creativity that's available for other things. Like as I've taken out of worry, my positive potential creation has gone through the roof, because it's so exercised and so capable, but not engaging in that very disturbing behavior anymore.
That's really a beautiful shift in perspective.
Yes. And then there's the whole, being dominated by fear and living through fear and creating through fear and expecting bad things. And not trusting life or, not trusting myself or heaven or earth or others. I mean, there's just a whole lot in the worry that is not choosing high vibration. And there's nothing like we all, to some degree, like worry happens, but can we notice for a lot of people, a lot of us, but can we notice it and say, oh, I'm not going to let you drive my car. And I'm not going to let you run my brain, because if I get in that, I haven't for a long time, but when I used to, I'd wake up in the middle of the night. I think I talked about this, and I'd call it night thoughts. Like I'd have some worry, I'd have some fear, and then I'd find reasons to worry. And then Michael would eventually wake up and say, will you stop that, when I wasn't doing anything? Because I was like energetically. It's a riot, right? So, but none of that hasn't happened for a long time. It doesn't have to keep happening to me, but people don't know this.
Yeah.
It's a choice. All right, y'all emotions, you're strapped in the back seat. And we might get ice cream or not, but you're not going to drive the car. And okay, brain, on all these patterns of all the bad things that could happen, you're over here, and we're going to start detoxing you from that. And we're going to start repatterning. And but I'm still informed by it. I'm still informed by it's a really great place to be. I'm informed by all the bad things that can happen, but they don't have to make me upset. They're just like, all right, so X, Y, Z might happen. I need to have cash in my wallet. I need to have,
All right.
I need to
the
have
bat under my
charge.
bed and the door's locked.
Yeah. And then I can go to sleep like you did the other time.
Yeah.
Then I can go to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a really wonderful thing to unpack and to shift habit on.
And that's so beautiful because you were looking at your worry from a place of neutrality. And it sounds like eventually you got to the place where you were able to look at it from amusement because you realized how creative you were.
So creative.
And now you can shift that creativity into a more positive outlet for yourself.
Yes. And I just want to add one thing because I find it so fascinating. I hope people can hear what I'm saying. There's a particular tool that I was trained. It's called de-energizing mental image pictures.
De-energizing mental image. Okay.
It's basically taking a scenario and taking out the emotions and taking out the foreign energy and it's designed to work on the past in which our memories are tied to emotions. So energetically, they've been doing this for, centuries, millennium. They've been doing it. And now we found out, our memories are tied to our emotions.
Right. And it works.
So, and it works. So, that's how I was trained to do it. And I did it so long for that. And it really is wonderful because these things that are triggering, these things that are so upsetting that I'm living through here and creating through don't have to stay here. But it doesn't have to be the already always listening. They're going to get me again. It doesn't have to live here. The shark's getting me. It doesn't have to live here. So what was fascinating is as I started to get more mastery around the worry in whole new ways, I started using the same tool for the future.
Oh.
So the example I like to give is like in New Jersey, driving to my friend's house where I used to live, like down this rural road, at night, the deers are jumping all over the place. That's what deers do. They just jump. They're just jumping all over the road, right? So like I'd come down the road and be like, oh my gosh, a deer is going to jump out. Like we can relate to this. We see the picture, right? The deer is going to jump out.
Right.
And so I'd be like, oh, I can de-energize that picture and take out the stuff so that I'm not ignoring it. It's a reasonable thing. Deers do jump. And say, okay, so first I'm going to slow down to like the speed limit.
Key number one.
Right. And like pay full attention. And then I'm also going to clear all the emotionality and all the stuff around this picture. And it helps me to be not seeing through it and scared, but it also helps me like release anything that has it like now it's woo, but like I won't be attracting that at all. That's not my expectation. The expectation of deers jumping is not going to happen. I'm ready for it, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's really fascinating how the past and the future are so alike in some ways.
Yes. I used to do that deer exercise when I was riding my motorcycle.
What did you do?
What you just described. Instead of being fearful and thinking, I've seen deer on this road before and a deer's going to jump out, I would imagine a clear, straight, clean road with no deer and drive the speed limit.
Right.
Or a little slower if it was at night and I'm on a motorcycle, because you don't want to hit a deer when you're on a motorcycle. You certainly don't want to when you're driving a car, but you really don't want to hit a deer when you're on a motorcycle.
You really don't.
Yeah.
Awesome. Boy, we've gone hither and yon. What a great show. Thank you so much, Dawn.
You're welcome, Wendy. And to our listeners, thank you. Thanks for being here with us. And if this message spoke to you, please tell us what's on your heart. We would love to read your comments. For more information about how you can live by heart, please go to livebyhearttoday.com. Like and follow this page. We air every Thursday at 4:44 Pacific time. And from our heart to yours, we're creating a better tomorrow because we live by heart today.
And that concludes this portion of
Live by Heart Today!
Thank you for watching. View more episodes on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's give a shout out to our sponsors. Thank you, We Are Storically, for making this show possible.